I do workshops and I do consulting and coaching with businesses about helping them become more profitable by focusing on the customer side of the business. So that's a bit about me. So the whole thing about this is we're going to cover these things. We're going to talk about them in detail. And as we go through it, we're going to gain an understanding of, the first things we're talking about is what actually drives profitability within an organisation. Because the stuff that businesses used to do more than 15 years ago, most of it doesn't work anymore. It's changed. The whole world has changed. And the whole world has changed not from the digital technology side of things, but how customers buy and how they use the power of advocacy. So how customers spend their money and how they advocate. We'll talk about what the problem is. We'll talk about then a framework around how we build that. So progressively, by the end of this evening, all of your answers and what you wanted to know before, you should have an answer for. And hopefully we've unpacked some stuff that's derailing us. Even when you're starting out or if you've got an existing business, there is a collection of customers. So you've got the number of the customers and you have their value, and that drives the profitability of your business. So profitability comes from customers. It doesn't come from products or services. It comes from the people that want to spend the money. So your customer base is your key driver for profitability. And how those customers spend and what they do within that drives the profitability of the business. So that's a customer portfolio. It's the customer base. So one of the things I like to do, which sounds really odd, is analyse customer bases. And the first lesson I got from this was from a particular financial institution I worked at a few years ago. And this is actual data, okay? So this is where you look at a customer base and you figure out, okay, let's come up with these different segments. Once you know what those customers are buying, what revenue they are producing, you can estimate costs to serve and the costs or the margins on each one of those products, and you can come up with an estimate of profit or profit contribution. So for this particular example then, there was more than 1 million customers, and we found that, okay, we've got the segment A and B customers producing, as a household, average profit contribution $2,500, a segment B, 1 to 2.5, and then you get down to these lower value customers. Okay, so pretty quickly we can see that segment A and B produce, they're about 14% of the customer base, but in terms of profitability, it was around close to 80%. So normally if I said to you, okay, most customer bases inside a business, 20% of the customers produce 80% of profits. Most people will go, yep, 80-20 rule, that applies. So in reality, it does apply. So there's a flaw in averages. And whenever we think about a customer portfolio or customers, none of them are average. Okay, it's when we get into that next level of detail, they start to get more meaningful. Okay, so these customers invested with the organisation in a certain way that drove greater levels of profitability. And they were then made up of these ones. So there's a couple of key insights that came from this for us. One of them was there was an assumption that the best customers are the ones that are the high net worth individuals. Okay, and they were part of that top group, but they didn't make up the whole top group. It was your regular mum and dad type customers as well. The high net worths often have a higher cost to serve and get better deals. So a couple of key lessons. We understood how value was created. And this is one of the key things that we have to figure out. How do we create value? So those A and Bs are highly likely to be advocates and promoters. So if you've bought into the organisation and your products and services, you like their products and services, you're investing in it, your retention rate is high, you are engaged with that business. So you are highly likely to be a promoter. Those ones in the middle, they could go either way. These guys are not likely to be. They're probably likely to be detractors. So there's a correlation between promoter behaviour and high levels of engagement in the organisation. And those customers that are more highly engaged from a profitable perspective are more valuable, not only from the revenue they produce, but from the advocacy